nearly 1 in 3 teenagers will experience an anxiety disorder. So that
Mm.
doesn't mean I'm just nervous. I'm worried. I don't want to talk to this boy, or I'm nervous about this test. All of us experience those things, and that is absolutely a part of adolescence.
Mhm.
But when your child is excessively worried, right? And that worry is occurring more days than not, and this is really important, for at least 6 months. And by the way, those months
Mm.
go by very quickly when you're parenting, right?
Yeah.
But if you're noticing that your child is dealing with excessive worry that's difficult to control, maybe you've given them some strategies, or maybe you've tried to reassure them. The cheer coach has tried to reassure them about some worry about the future, and it's still causing them significant distress. And then here's the other piece that is impacting the way they function at home, the way they function at school, the way they function during extracurricular activities. That's something that we have to pay attention to. So, excessive worry getting in the way of their life in multiple areas more days than not over a 6-month period of time, that's when we really want to get some professional support. And the other really big health condition or mental health condition that adolescents face is depression.
Yeah.
So nearly 1 in 8 teenagers will experience not just sadness, not just low mood. All of those things are a part of being a teenager. They're going to have fluctuations in their mood that sometimes will happen. Like they'll be really, really happy or really, really sad. That
Mm.
could happen 9 times before lunch and be normal.
Mhm.
I tell parents all the time that's normal, especially around 13. That's when things really peak. However, depression is feeling that persistently painful mood, sometimes irritability, oftentimes avoidance and withdrawing from things that normally your teenager enjoys more days than not. But this is the significant piece. If it's
Wow.
happening for 2 weeks or more, that's when I tell parents to intervene.
Wow. Whew. So you said for anxiety, it's about 1 in 3, and then for
Yes.
depression, 1 in 8. So it's like
Mhm.
more like most of us are going to have children that are experiencing this, right?
It's more
You
universal than we think. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that, the stressors that they're experiencing now are a little bit different than what we experienced
Mhm.
when we were their age. What are some things that
Mhm.
are contributing, or just the stressors that we may not have experience in, that they're
Yeah.
facing today?
Oh gosh. So there's been a lot of shifts in culture. So we started looking at data starting in 2007, indicating that there are elevating, or at this point, elevated rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and despair
Mm,
among young people. So a lot of people that I talk to will point to the pandemic.
yeah.
Absolutely. The pandemic did a number on young people. It did a number on women. It did a
Mhm,
number on people of color.
mhm,
Um, but the pandemic did not start this youth mental health crisis that we have been seeing. I've been paying attention to this really 10 years
wow.
prior to the pandemic,
Mhm,
where it became concerning and now alarming. I was a school counselor over 18 years ago. I saw, kids go through relationship issues. I saw kids go through, family conflict and
mhm,
chaos that would show up at school, right?
yeah.
They aren't sleeping well, they're not doing great in their academics, their relationships are suffering. All of those things. I even saw a little bit of self-harming.
Mm,
But what I see now, really, what I saw then, I should say, pales in comparison to what
wow.
I'm seeing now. And this is where, we have more knowledge.
Mhm,
Families, in a lot of cases, are more resourced.
mhm,
We have access to mental health
yeah,
benefits through our employer. And back in, 18 years ago,
yeah,
that wasn't necessarily the case. There was still a lot of stigma.
yep.
So I think several shifts in culture, what our kids are telling us now, and in our book Scene, we talk a little bit about this. We are living in a very, very fast-paced culture.
Mhm,
And the fast-paced nature of our world today is really leaning more into digital connection, versus face-to-face connection.
Mhm.
And I bet you see this in the conversations that you have with people. Like, it used to be 5 o'clock, we get off work and then we can have dinner and
Yep.
spend time with our family and engage in those things that help us to kind of unwind and
Yep.
and get a sense of balance. Now, and this is the case for me too. I'm having to follow up on email. I'm having to
Yep.
check to see if this is an email that I need to follow up on, right?
Yep.
My husband is a toxicologist, and he's, getting dings on his phones, and all of our kids, they have computers for
Yeah.
school, and that it's easy to go from schoolwork to, let me see what Google says about this. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
we don't even realize just how distracted we can be. And it's a scary world. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't like hearing this, but I'm going to keep sounding the alarm because as a trauma therapist, I'm so passionate about all of us realizing what's affecting our kids and what's affecting us.
Mhm.
Kids are experiencing mass shootings. We did not experience that. Not in our schools. I remember living through Columbine. It was one
Yeah.
of those things that you feel like is never gonna happen ever again. That was 1999, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, we've had multiple school shootings in elementary schools, right? And so kids are also, even if your child has never experienced that, and I pray that your child will
Mhm.
never experience that, there are things happening globally and with the
Mhm.
digital connection and access. um, Teenagers are much more plugged into what's happening.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Well Sis. If you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link in the show notes. Be Well Sis is hosted by me, Dr. Cassandra Dunbar, and produced by Edit Audio. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, be well, sis.